All right, we're good. All right, so we're supposed to do the label's point of view
Yes.
of um, ownership masters. All right, do you want to go first?
Well, I think from the label's point of view, it's a pretty simple answer is that I pretty much think if I'm a part of the label, I'm all for owning the masters, obviously, because
Yeah.
that's where they make all the money. And I do feel like a lot of it is in favor of the label as opposed to the artist. So from an ethical point of view, even though if I was looking at it from an artist point of view, I don't think it's really that ethical. From a business point of view, I can see how they kind of, in a way, believe that it's ethical because I feel like the label fronts so much money to the artist and they're really working to build their reputation that I almost see it in a weird way as collateral to
Mm-hmm.
them, even though this is tricky for me because I feel like it's harder for me to sort of defend the label side. So I'm trying to pretend
Me
to be
too. Yeah.
that person. And so that's kind of how I see it is like if I was in the business side of things, I would have no problem with owning the masters. And actually, I think a lot of what they do with them is very strategic. And from a business point of view, I think is really smart how they kind of re-release things over time and, and almost make people just constantly pay for the same thing over and over again. They just sort of repackage it and that sort of thing. And like I said, from a business perspective, I think it's really smart.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think too, I've always thought that the labels may have had something to do with the, I think it was 1976 when they did the copyright to 70 years after the death of the
Yes.
artist.
Yeah.
I think they probably had their hand in that too.
Oh,
I've thought
absolutely.
times. But yeah, I mean, I think where they really get, or where we, however you want to look at it, really get artists is not allowing them to license anything to anybody, or even re-record it with anybody else because they own the song. So yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that it's kind of the same BS as everything else with these contracts.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing,
Unfortunately.
like breakage fees and everything.
Right, right. Yeah, and I do in a sense kind of understand though, because if they're just gonna go out after someone else invested so much money and then re-record it and almost in a way maybe take business away from that original sort
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the person funding them from the start. I can understand that, but I again like it's hard for me to speak from the business point of view because I wanted to say, maybe there could be some other kind of negotiation there. But at the same time, coming from the business point of view, I would say I'd be perfectly.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the only way we could defend it, in my opinion, is saying, we're the ones putting the investment in it. If they had written the song, they would get their mechanical royalty. So,
Right.
they just sung it.
Yeah.
They just played on it is how we could probably defend that. And, you put millions of dollars into these artists, the least that they could do is give you those rights so that and you're still giving them a percentage of it, which, is whatever. But I think that's really the only argument for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of.
It's tough because in my job, we work with a lot of freelancers and independent contractors, and we just pay for what they do and end of story. There is that there's usually a clause like if they allow us to use it's usually artists, writers, and photographers, and they will either allow us to use it for whatever we want or it's a one-time use only. There is sort of a clause in there, but as far as them doing the work is concerned, it's one-time fee and that's it. And that's kind of how sometimes you mentioned a little earlier it's sort of like, sometimes artists could just be a one-off kind of thing where it's like, okay, you sang on this and that's all you did. Do you know what I mean? And
no, I definitely can see that.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. That's the only really point I could come up with. I think it's a great business move, but as far as like an ethical standpoint, I'm not really sure how ethical it is.
Yeah, I think.
Don't they look at it as a work for hire most of the time? Like artists are just work like almost contracted to sing these songs.
Yeah, and I think, well, I think the contract can kind of depend on how much the artist is really contributing and how much I see sort of maybe studio musicians sort of that way is like it's you just, maybe so for example, if someone's a singer, um, I'm just gonna throw somebody out there, like let's just say Usher. I don't know. That's just random off the top of my head. He's known to be a singer, and if he doesn't have necessarily a band or a group, and all the musicians that you hire to work with him, those I could see as sort of like contractor positions where it's like, okay, you're getting paid, either like per hour or per project or that kind of thing. But if you're trying to build a person's sort of persona and that sort of thing, that I think it would be sort of maybe a different type of contract where you're investing a lot more in the person's overall career.
It's hard,
In
my opinion, of like these kind of situations as a business or just music business in general, just because it is so creative and it's hard to put like a monetary or measurement value on it. But I guess looking at it as like, if you, I don't know, or a TV company and you send these people out to install the TVs, kind of like you would hire a singer to sing the song, did they get do they get a big portion of the TV sales? No, but they get something. I feel like they look at it that way, but it's so much harder when you're a creative person because
Yeah.
it's almost like their success for selling the TVs is because you're the person that's coming out and installing them. So they would,
Yeah, and I think it's kind of different because they're not going to continuously make money off of that thing. That's the tricky part, is because you're constantly making money off of that one thing they did over and over again. I think that's what makes it. You make a great point.
Yeah, it's hard to look at these songs as just products because they're really not. I don't really know how to look at a song in comparison to other industries because it's not just you sell one and then it's gone.
Exactly. Yeah.
The constant like monetary gain for the labels. So I don't know. It's hard to put like a measurement on these kind of things for me.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think I mean, again, we're coming from the business point of view, and I think if I were to start a label or some kind of business like that, I would probably myself, personally would have a different type of deal or agreement compared to most major labels and that sort of thing, where I feel like maybe honestly, I just feel like the more you sort of the more freedom you give an artist, I think the better they do overall. And I think they're going to just make a much better product anyway if they kind of have freedom. And if you look at these bands, so I knew this guy when I was younger who was in a band, and he would just get so angry if another musician in his band was had any other side projects. He just felt that was wrong. You know what I mean? And I almost feel like, you look at some of these other popular bands now, and everybody's just kind of playing and doing their different things and working with other artists. And that, to me, is just so much more amazing. I feel like it just builds you as a musician. And that's kind of how I see this whole licensing thing and all that kind of stuff. Like, maybe you do want some sort of restrictions on it, but maybe, I think if the artist is allowed to sort of spread their wings even more, I think they're under so much control by the label. If they're allowed to spread their wings and kind of, I think it would just benefit.
Well, I feel like too, I mean, coming from what we've been talking about in this class about tone and setting the tone and all that stuff, it makes your musicians almost feel totally invaluable because you're basically telling them like, well, if you wrote the song, you'd make money, but you're just a singer or you're just a guitar player.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that makes, everybody just feel, well, I'm just a singer,
Yeah, like they don't have value.
The singer or the guitar, like the musicians on the track are what sells the album more than who.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's hard to look at it. I feel like they're invalued for the impact that they have on the sales.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody buys a song because blah 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 wrote it. Usually, they buy it because whoever's singing it or whoever's the musician.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we did a good job.
I think so too. But I agree with you. Absolutely 100%. Because I'm also taking the music production analysis class. I don't know if you've taken that class. It's really good. It's really good. But it's all about, like, from a production point of view, like conveying the intention the artist had or the songwriter had, kind of making sure that emotion gets through to the listener. And just like what you said, they're not just people singing or playing instruments, they're conveying a message. And if you don't have the right person doing it, it's going to be a flop, Yeah. So you got to have that.
I totally agree with that. And I think I honestly think that hopefully that's where it's heading.
Yeah.
With the whole Future of Music Coalition, that's kind of their thing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that, these ideas and these methods will catch on.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been a long time for them.
Oh yeah, I mean,
everybody over all the time.
It's crazy, and I think I think it's getting to the point where the industry doesn't have much of a choice because so many people can do so much on their own now.
Yeah.
So they might have to, they might have to make some changes. So.
Yeah, it was kind of eye-opening. My band just released a single, and it's fun to look at even from digital downloads. Because we don't have a label, we're making 60 something cents for every 99 cents.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which when you hear about somebody with a label, it's like you made 3 cents.
And in some cases it's like 0.001 cent. It's crazy.
Well, no wonder people are not having a label anymore. I could sell 1/100th of the songs that I do. I would do with a label, and I'm making just as much. I'm sure it's disheartening to see you're at the top of the Billboard charts and you have $100 in your bank account.
It's unbelievable when you hear these stories.
Somebody's in Hawaii drinking mimosa on the beach with your money. So
yeah, it's so true. Well, so it makes me think of the cigarette companies for some reason. Like,
sorry.
That's okay. When I used to smoke a long time ago, all my money went to these, these rich tobacco company executives, and I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I'm like, what am I doing making them rich? So that's kind of why I quit for other reasons. But it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, the business executives are making all the money and the artist isn't really making it.
No, I can totally see that. It's hard for me to compare the music industry with other industries, but I guess sometimes you have to, but it's so different because it's having people that are creative.
Yeah.
It's hard to put a monetary value on talent and creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Did you post your single on a link to it or something on the
I can send it to you if you want.
You should put it in the class announcements too, because a lot of students do that. So that'd be awesome to check it out. Well,
I think we nailed it. So
awesome. All right. Well, thank you again for coordinating this, and I think we have another one coming up next week. So
cool. Yeah, I'll send something out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Doing these, I think. I don't know. My camera quit working, so
cool. We're all good.
It was good to see you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye. You too.